Okay, welcome to this recording. What we're going to do here is set up a template so that if you're recording against a backing track, or let's say you're going to use something you want to record for the virtual jam room, you can bring it up really, really quickly by building a template yourself. You can also do it by assembling the tracks once you're done, but you can build specific templates for specific applications that you want to do. And I have found that the backing track is probably the one that I use more often than anything else. So we'll open Studio One version 5. So here we are at our main Studio One screen. In order to create a template, we have to tell it we're going to start a song. So we'll tell it we want to record a new song, and that pops up the new song dialog. You have several options here of pre-built templates that are built according to a style, such as band tracking, any number of things. Also, there's one that will activate any Presonus interface. However, it does activate and create a track or a channel for every input that you have on that particular device. So if you want to use it, fine, but it doesn't really matter. Now, there's also the user section. And that's where we're going to keep our templates, and everything that you create on your own system will reside here. Now, it doesn't matter which one of these we start with, because they all have an empty song listed at the top, and they're all using the same template. So that's what we want, is an empty song. Nothing's been set up. So we'll take the empty song from here and click OK. And what you get is an empty song. There's absolutely nothing on this. So the first thing that we'll do is come up here to where the identification will be held, and we'll add a track. You can add a track in stereo or just click Add Tracks, whichever you want to do. Doesn't really matter. We'll click Add Tracks, and we'll give it a name. We'll call it the VJR backing track. And that's where we're going to put the backing track when we actually record it. Go to record. And it's a red one. It's probably going to be a stereo track if you got it from the virtual jam room, or if you got a backing track from somewhere off the internet. The rest of this information is of little interest to us right now. So we'll just leave that alone and click OK. And as you can see, we've created a space for an input called backing track right here. Now, we want to add something for our guitar, so we'll add another track. And it will be an audio track. Let's make this one blue. And most likely your input is going to be mono. If it's stereo, that's fine. But in this case, we're going to use a mono input. Now, of interest here is which input we use. Now, my interface is set up so that the left input channel, as it's marked, is my guitar input. Now, this may be a microphone that you have laying in front of an amplifier. It may be a DI box that you have fed into an interface, or you could be with your guitar plugged directly into a live interface. It doesn't really matter. You'll pick that interface. And there's your second track. Oh, we forgot to name that, didn't we? Well, we don't have to live with it, calling it the VJR backing track and getting confused. We can come up here and double click on it and change that. And we'll call it my guitar track. We'll add a third channel. Let's say you wanted to sing, or somebody wants to play banjo or bagpipes along with you on the backing track. We'll add another track, and it will be audio. We'll call that, we won't call it my bagpipes channel. We'll call it my vocals. And let's make that a different color yet so we can distinguish it. Let's make it whatever that is. Yellowish, green. I'm colorblind, so it doesn't really matter. What we have here, we want to change the input, because right now it will default to input left, which is the same thing that my guitar is currently plugged into. So if I left it like this and we went ahead and recorded, I would get 2 channels that record the same thing, my guitar. So we'll change this here to input right, which in this case is a microphone. And in fact, it's the microphone that I'm talking to you on at the moment. And we'll click OK. Now, there's one more thing that we want to take a look at, and that is the console. It may be up by default in your system. It's not up by default in mine. So you have to bring it up. And I did that by simply going up and clicking on View and selecting the console. And a check mark appears next to it, and it shows up down here. So now you can see that we have, here's your backing track, here's your guitar track, and here's your My Vocals track. Over to the right is your main output. That's your final volume for mixing. When you want to do a mix down, you'll probably want to leave this exactly where it is, but if you record and you start clipping, you may want to take it down a little bit, or you might need to bring it up if your levels aren't quite high enough. But in most cases, you can ignore it. At this point, we could load a backing track, start playing and record your guitar, and sing along if you like. But if you did that, that's a song, not a template. And our objective here is to save a template. So we'll click on File, Save as Template. So we'll do that. And we'll give it a name. Instead of calling it today's date and my name, we will call it VJR Backing Tracks. And we'll call it Template for Mastery. If you like, you could even put a little icon in there, a happy face or something that means something to you. We're not going to do that. We'll just put it in here and click OK. Now we're done. Now when we want to come back in the future, well, we're going to come back in not the future, but just right now. Now, ask if you want to save the song that you just did, but we didn't do anything in the song other than set the template up. So we'll say no. And we're back at the main screen. So now, at some point later, an hour later, tomorrow, next week, next month, you come in, you want to record something for the virtual jam room. You open Studio One. We go through our normal screen. And we select New Song. Come over to our User Templates. And there's our VJR Backing Tracks template. We'll click on that and say OK. Or you could just as easily have double-clicked on it. And you'll see we have exactly what we left when we created the template. Now all you need to do is bring in your backing track, and you can do that in one of 2 ways. You can either open a separate File Explorer window and drag and drop. Let's say we come in here to the VJR, and we'll do a clean track. And we'll call it, we'll go to Soul Jazzy in G minor. You can import an MP3 or a WAV file. Studio One doesn't care. As of version 4, the MP3 files were allowed. And all you have to do is click and drag and drop. And if you do that, bingo, there's your backing track. The second way to do that, we'll get rid of this by simply highlighting it and then clicking the delete button on our keyboard. The second way to do that is to go to Song and Import File. And I forgot which one we used there. Oh yeah, it was up here in the clean ones, wasn't it? It was brand new ones. Not that it really matters. But okay, well this time we'll pick Fast Blues in E. And now we have the track there. And in fact, you can listen to it right now if you want. It's there. Okay. And we're set to go. The only thing we have to do now is make sure that our guitar is there and plugged in. Arm the recording track for the guitar. And if you want to sing along with it, arm the recording track for your vocals. Now, one thing that you will notice here, when you click the record and arm it, you get a monitor. The monitor icon turns gray next to it. That indicates that it's monitoring what's there. If you can hear your guitar, like let's say through an amplifier or something else, and you don't need to hear your guitar back through the system, you're probably better off to do this, because there's going to be a very slight delay and it might confuse you. Now, even more important is if you put a vocal track in with a live open mic, if you put that in the monitor, you will suddenly hear yourself. And if it's up loud enough on your existing speakers, you may end up with feedback. So that's where you're left. And I don't really want to record my vocals on this, so we go from there. You pick up your guitar and play. You come down here, click record, or if you want to use a shortcut, you can hit the star key on your number pad and the system starts recording. Enough of that. Okay, now that we've got a little bit recorded there, you can see there's not a lot there. That's because in my particular situation, I'm using what's called a dry input, which means my guitar is going directly into the board, and it's not going to be terribly loud. We'll get into how to affect that later, but this is enough to set you up how to do that. Now, to save your track, you can save your song by clicking save, and it will give it a default title, which in my case is today's date and my name, and it has been saved in whatever your default location is. If you wanted to change it and save it somewhere else, you can do that by clicking save as, and a file dialog box comes up, and you can see my default is right here. It's into my PC, Documents, Studio One, Songs, and so on and so forth. It's exactly where we had already saved it. So that's it. We'll show you how to mix it down in another video. Thanks.